Hey guys, it's Brandon, aka B.Rich Beauty, aka what? Your beauty best friend, and happy Monday, y'all. We're talking Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, part one of the reunion. So you know what to do. Grab your beverage. Let go. Jeremy.
Brandon. How are ya?
I'm good, huh? I'm sipping my tea in my Africa mug.
Yes.
Ready.
Uh,
I had a feeling nostalgia today. I said, take me back to Cape Town. Wait, I can't go today, so let me just grab this mug instead, child.
yes.
How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored today.
Walking in the spirit of the Lord.
I love.
Jeremy,
Let's do it.
did you watch part one? I hope you did. Did you watch part one last night?
I did. I watched it today, not last night, but I watched it, and it was interesting to say the least.
First of all, the set was really. I actually
I did that.
loved the set.
They always have really good. They had really good set last year too. I think they set the trend because now you start to see these reunion sets look so like grand, but they definitely by far have probably had some of the best reunion sets.
I kind of agree, and the fact that there was a real like fishing hole, like I was low key, high key, or maybe all the keys in between. I was like, I don't want anybody to fall in, but if they did, ooh, this would be good to see them slip into that pond, child.
Yes,
exactly. Especially with Lisa Barlow's, little shrink wrap dress she had on. Right. That would have just been marvelous to see.
Listen, I cannot with Miss Lisa Barlow, but that's for later on in the conversation today.
So let's jump in. There was no Mary Cosby. We knew she was not going to be there, but are you feeling some kind of way?
Oh my gosh, y'all. Mary is Salt Lake City. Like, I cannot. I am so sad that she was not there. Her voice needed to be heard. Andy said she didn't come because, of comments that were made about her church and her being a predator. And Meredith alluded that maybe it wasn't good for her mental health. And so, poor Mary.
I mean, here's the thing. Candy showed up after, Portia insinuated that, Candy was trying to drug her and take her to her sex dungeon. Candy showed up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different, I think, in this situation. I mean, you do have to add a layer also of race, which adds a little complexity to it because they're just cultural things and differences that, like in Atlanta, they're all operating from mostly the same page and understanding. But then in Salt Lake City, when you have these different races and stuff like that, then it's not operating really from the same level of understanding. And so when you're the only one to, it's a little kind of like Garcelle. She was just like, listen, it's difficult for me to go against you all because you're not really understanding fully me.
And so I don't disagree with you in that way. But if we're going to solely base race things, yes, do I feel like a lot of those women are sitting their privilege and completely unaware? Yes, Meredith. Yes, Lisa. Yes, Whitney, in a sense. But if we're going to be talking about race, Mary was one of the most racist in terms of like conversation throughout the season.
Okay, so I guess, if we talk about racism and because even Andy said that Mary didn't think that Black people could be racist. And I agree with that statement. I do agree with that statement. I do. Of course, I agree with that statement. I think Black people.
Of course. Like, I don't know. Like, we don't know.
Black people can be prejudiced. Black people can be discriminatory to a certain level of extent. But I think when we look, the problem, I think, with the statement, though, comes in what we say, what we mean when we say racism, right? Most of the time, I think when people are saying racism, I think they're meaning like a strong prejudice or strong discrimination. But when we look at like a definition of racism, I mean, you look at a definition, just a Merriam-Webster definition.
I know I went to Merriam-Webster.
Listen, we here, beloved, and it says that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race, and those behavior and attitudes reflect and foster this belief. So that's how you end up with things like slavery, with discrimination, and all of those things, because you're operating from a fundamental belief that your race is superior, and you're enacting different systematic oppression to certain groups and social, economic, and political disadvantages, and disenfranchising these people because of racism. And so because Black people are not in the majority or have the power to oppress a certain group of people because of their race, by definition of racism, then Black people cannot be racism. But doesn't mean that Black people can have prejudice towards people and certain groups of people, or be discriminatory and to certain groups of people as well too. But I think people use the word racism in a very different kind of way than what I think the actual definition of that would be.
All right, so I'm tossing a question out there to everybody, because I'm completely like shocked to hear your thought and your logic behind this, because I feel like if you're a human being, we all have the ability to be racist in a sense. It's about how we choose to show up in love and acceptance.
We all have the ability to be prejudiced. We don't have the ability to oppress a group of people. How? How can we enact laws and systems against a group of people when we don't even have the power?
Cecil said racism is a system of power.
Yeah, of course. Yes, Cecil. Yes, it's a system of racism is a system of power, and I think the where it gets lost in translation is how people use the word, right? And I think it's we use it in a more general sense than what it actually really is. And so if we're using it in the way most people will say racism, then sure, Black people can be racist. But if we're looking at the true definition of racist, and when sometimes you hear scholars, especially a lot of Black scholars and stuff like that, really talk about Black people can be racist, they're looking at the technical term of the word racist. And so I don't really know how to get to move over that, because I mean, how we can even learn about Black people and gay people in school no more. So I don't even know.
I mean, I know that's crazy too. So have you read the book by Isabel Wilkerson called Caste?
I have not. I don't have to pick that up and read that. What's
the full title of it? Yeah, because the book really did something for me in terms of enlightenment. Last year when I read it, is called Caste: The Origins of Our Discontents. So it talks about racial stratification through the United States and also the caste system around the world. Now, I don't want it to get lost in this race conversation, but I did think it was quite interesting that Mary did say Black people can't be racist. I think, and I understand what you're saying, racism is definitely a system of power. Traditionally and historically, Black people have not been in power to be able to oppress someone else, but it's also a fine dance between being prejudiced and also being racist. And I think if that's the case, then was Jenny's post racist or was it prejudiced?
Yeah, I don't think her post was racist either, because she's in the same boat as us. Who she can oppress? Her people can't oppress like our people can't oppress either. Right now, racism is rooted in white supremacy, that white is better and more, like it says, inherently superior than any other race. And there's systems and everything. I mean, even take it down to a Band-Aid, right? Something as simple, like all my life, I just thought Band-Aids were the color. That's just a color of Band-Aids until
somebody came out with the black. Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, they made Band-Aids so it would look like white people's skin. And everybody else just had to
figure it out. Okay.
And so like, you don't even think about how deep the stuff like this goes until, you know, people start uncovering it. But I think like we said, the problem is how we use the word. And so well, I think I'm just going to use the word racist, like y'all using the word racist. And if that's the case, then yeah, Mary racist. Yeah, Jenny racist. But yeah.
And moving on, Mary did not show up. And because Mary didn't show up, she could not be held accountable for her actions, conversation wise, and how she showed up in general. Now, the other question also goes into, do you feel like Meredith overly protected Mary? Because they were going to call her out over that too.
I mean, I think, of course, you know, at this point, when that's everybody against you, you need somebody on your side. And so maybe they may be doing a little wrong. And like she said, I'm sure behind the scenes, she was just like, Mary girl, like, that was not okay. But you don't call them, just like if you're dating somebody and you out in public and they do something wrong, you ain't gonna call them out, or you shouldn't call them out in front of everybody. But when you get home, be like, you know what, that's fucked up.
One-on-one though, they had that lunch and Mary literally adopted Jenny's accent, and Meredith had to be like, no characterizations.
So okay, so also too, I guess I would be curious to know, because that's probably also my ignorance of what would be wrong with what is wrong, and I'm curious to learn and to know about doing that. Like if I mimic, I would be loyal to her until you see what happens when you cross this. Okay.
But she will send Jesus after you.
Hello. But no, I'd be curious to know, like, what, because if I'm mimicking someone from the South and I'm just like, or like when Kathy was talking about Michael Jackson, right, in Beverly Hills, she ended up doing the voice like, but they didn't call her racist. So
because I mean, that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
What's different from what Kathy did than what Mary did? They're both recounting stories that someone told them in the voice in which they speak.
But it wasn't. The difference is Michael had that look, that airy cloud, cumulus cloud of a voice, right?
And that's what we knew. Sounds just like what Mary said to me. It sounds just like that.
No, you cannot. That's the equivalent. She called it. She said that the woman had, you know, eyes. Like that's not okay.
Okay, so again,
accent either.
Listen, again. Okay, so again, I am genuinely want to be educated, but so when they replayed that scene, what I saw was not Mary making fun of her features, but calling out her features as beautiful. It is a fact that her eyes were slanted. It is a fact that she had yellow. Her eyes are slanted, just like some people have larger eyes, round eyes, everything there. You go on to make a Bitmoji, it's going to list all kinds of eye shapes and sizes and tell you what they are. And people are picking them.
I'm not disputing Jenny's eye shape or size. I'm saying to you, when you look at someone and, okay, you know what? Let's take it out of this context. Someone comes up to you and they're like, I love your black skin. I love the way your X, Y, and Z is.
They're like, oh, I love your full lips. Whatever. Like, I mean, so if it's coming from a place of appreciation and love, and that then what is the problem with that? It's a fact that we all have different features that stand out from one another, and if people are appreciating that and not making fun of it, right? I think the problem comes when if she was making fun of slanted eyes and saying, oh, you know, or doing this like we used to do like in school, which is not okay, but like she called appreciation to it. So
and Jenny said that's not okay, and she repeated again and circled back. But here's what I will say, because I don't want us to get lost in the sauce here.
We're not getting, I mean, we talking about what they was talking about. So yeah. And if we want to translate it so that go ahead. What you about to say?
I feel that her calling out Jenny's eyes was absolutely a lack of judgment and emotional intelligence. And because of that, and because Mary has had a history of doing certain things, associating somebody being a thug and being a drug lord and being in Mexico, like Mary has said problematic things.
But okay, she has said problematic things. However, I think when we look at what she's saying, like, to me, when she said the thing about the Mexican, she didn't say all Mexicans. That literally, I think about the cartel. I think about the drug gangs in Mexico. That, I mean, where else is the cartel? Where is the cartel? Where is it? I'm just asking a question. Where
go down to the Netflix and watch the cartel show, and maybe they'll tell you where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, the Colombian drug cartel. Listen, the definition, it says an association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at high level and restricting competition, i.e. the Colombian drug cartels. That's literally in the dictionary.
Well, we're gonna move on because I don't want not damn one person from the drug cartel to come after me or you.
So I guess
here's the
difference from Jenny to end this. For me, the difference between what Jenny was doing and what Mary was doing, I think Mary was just talking about things, but not in a negative sort of light. And I think what Jenny was doing, she was really calling out a specific group of people unaware of the issues that would have negative impacts to people, right? Me saying that I love your beautiful eyes, and me saying that, oh, you know, basically the police, you know, Black people need to respect the police and they won't get shot, are two completely different issues. But moving right along.
Is Heather shaped like a Lego?
Oh my God. Now they is wrong for that. And then they had the picture of the Lego talking about Cass Reeves.
Is Heather shaped like Shrek?
Now she did try to clarify, and I'm glad she did, because when she was like, I meant how you were acting like an ogre and treating me like an ogre, because she did call Whitney the donkey. So I mean, it's a bad coincidence.
But if we're talking about all these things, to Whitney's point, that's body shaming. You saying that she looks like a Lego, you over here body shaming Heather.
No,
and it's 2022. We're celebrating all the body shapes.
Yep,
including Lego.
Facts.
Lego.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, we all have different bodies and different things like that. And is there work we all can be doing on our bodies? All of us, we can be doing on our bodies. But what we do need to do is appreciate our bodies that we're in today, love that, look at it, and then strive to do better however we can do better. But that's why it's important to see people like Heather on TV, or some of these Orange County women that are a little different. No, body sizes. Like, I think you get a lot of like thicker women in Orange County.
Do you? Because I just associate Orange County with like lots of like injections and a little nip tuck. Not that I'm judging, because you know I love a good little.
Right. But I mean, like, I think what's some of their names? Like the blonde girl. Yeah, some of those cast members are on the thicker side. And of course, you know, Atlanta, you know, but they even celebrating the Instagram body. So I mean, you don't even get like, I mean,
is Kenya's more behind even real?
I think her behind is real. I do. But that's another subject for another day.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I think that's why it's important for us to see these casts. Yep, Shannon, Emily, yes, these women from Orange County. But I think I think it's important for us to see these different kinds of women. And even like I was thinking the other day when I was looking at a cast picture of Atlanta on the trip, and I was like, there happened to be on the edge, I don't even know who that was, a lady that was just a different size than them, a bigger size than the rest of them. And I was like, oh, they don't have really any women that are not like slim and trim with a big booty and big titties. Like,
you know, here's the thing about Atlanta. They all came in small and with a little bit of fame and a little bit of money and a good old meal, honey, they thick with it now. So I think it's also that when you look back at like Candy and how tiny Candy was when she got there versus how voluptuous she is now, and the same thing with Portia.
But they thick with it in the right places, right? So I mean, that's why I said they got the Instagram bodies over in Atlanta. But I mean, it's important for us to see people like Heather, which I would call the quotation mark everyday people on TV.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to know
like Heather, you see yourself and you feel validated. When you don't see yourself in media, you kind of be like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. There's not a place for me. And so,
which is my concern, that even though Mary is gone, now that if they don't replace Mary with another Black person, we lose that Black representation in a franchise like that, you know? And as we can see that that franchise, that city needs as much diversity as possible, because outside of Jenny, who's no longer there, we're now stuck with Whitney, Lisa, Heather, and Jen Shaw. And
She
Jen
about to
brings
be gone soon.
right.
She about to
And
be
according
gone.
to you, Jeremy, you've now convicted her to
She
20
about
to
to be
30 years
gone.
up to life in jail.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, the other good thing about Mary was that she was a different kind of Black woman. Like we all see,
Crazy.
but I mean, she's just very different
Crazy.
than the kind of Black woman you're used to seeing on TV, right? And Black people are not monolithic. We are there's so many different kinds of Black people.
Agree.
So I appreciated seeing the non-traditional got it together, get it going on, like, you know, sister girl, hear me roar, but just somebody that's a Black woman that's on the little quirkier side, that's a little different, that, you know, moves in a little different way than what you traditionally see. And I thought it was a nice and refreshing to see a different image of a Black person.
If they don't have the diversity, we're going to get stuck with all of these women sitting in their own privilege. And that's been the issues with some of these other franchises that did not have diversity until recently. Like, I don't want to hear Lisa for a whole season without some type of diversity, you know? And the same thing with even like Heather. Like, so here's also the other piece. Let's circle back really quickly, right? So I feel like Heather sat on her hands all season and waited to get to the reunion just to fight with everybody, and primarily with Lisa. I don't understand how deep her pain or her hate or her whatever she has going on towards Lisa. I feel like Heather is in annihilation mode right now.
I mean, because, and rightfully so, I think, you know, Lisa first season, you know, when they talked about that at the reunion and different things like that, didn't probably treat her the kindest and kind of isolated her. We saw several scenes where she would come and speak and not speak to her, or speak to her last and bypass her. I mean, and this season, you know, they asked a question, is, you know, Lisa a pot stirrer or whatever? And, you know, they all raised their hand except for Jenny, her puppet, alleged puppet. And so,
Who's now gone.
right. Okay. And so I think they're just kind of tired of it. At least Whitney does it in your face and she walks in and it owns it. Lisa does so many instances of suggestion or putting people in situations and letting the drama happen where, oh, I just invited him, I didn't know he was going to say that, or, oh, you know, do you think about this, why would you say that, now I'm thinking about this, to make the drama from like a sneaky kind of place. So she's like the Lisa Vanderpump of this.
So are you doubling down and you're saying that Lisa is messy as a pot stirrer as well?
No, Lisa is the pot stirrer, and like Whitney said, she is the pot gets stirred and she pick it up from there and go.
And I agree. I think Whitney was very messy this season. Oh, but Whitney not only was messy, but Whitney tried to do it when she was always inebriated as well. So to like Mary's point, it's like, girl, get out my face because you're drunk right now, and I don't even want to deal with this with you right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's Whitney for you. You know, she's a fun time girl, party girl. So
Fun time girl. Now, can we talk though? Because also, I don't know if y'all caught, but I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to my sister girl, friend in my head in real life, Monique Samuels, because I feel like Lisa in this binder situation, and I'm just like, well, you know who did it first? Monique Samuels.
yeah, Monique definitely like set the gold standard for receipts at a reunion. We've always had receipts, but nobody has done receipts like Monique has done receipts. And so it had not been for what Monique did, what Lisa would have brought would have been like cool, like, ooh, she got all these text messages. But the way Monique did it, and the like, boom, I got a binder. It is divided by names. It's got information. It's blown
Tabbed,
up pretty.
highlighted.
Yes. So
You remember being in school? Y'all used to get the plastic covers.
yep. Yep. So I mean, she was it's a hard live up to all women across all franchises for receipt bringing, because if you ain't doing it like Monique Samuels of Love
Then
and
what is she
Rich
doing?
DC,
I see what you did there, Jeremy.
Right. Then don't even bring it.
And on top of that, Lisa folder was like this thick.
Yeah.
And she was literally like, well, I have
I know Andy was
staples
like, okay.
fumbling
Oh, he actually
through.
looked really good, by the way. I loved his suit and his red bottoms. So
Who,
he looks
Andy?
really good. Yeah, I liked his look.
So speaking of the looks, I agree. I did like the way Andy got a haircut for it. He looked amazing. You know whose look I actually was not mad of now that I saw it in person?
Okay.
Whitney, not in person, but with not through the pictures, right? Whitney's outfit was absolutely stunning on her. And on top of that, I got receipts. So, Whitney's outfit was this green hair. Her makeup was stunning. Her hair was stunning. And after they made Jen take off her gloves, I was not actually mad at Jen's outfit. Every now and then she
was too big. It's in her face. Like it needs to be not as big here. Bring it down.
Agreed.
And yeah, they was like, "Oh, you gotta take this off," and she was like, "Oh, that was made the outfit." So yeah.
Ciao. Okay. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, what did you think about? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, when we're talking about Jen, I love that Andy came in before the reunion just to say, "Hey, I just want to let you know there's a rumor going around that we gave Erica of Beverly Hills questions before the reunion, which we did not. So I just want to let you know that." And so that was cool. So we get like a little really breaking the fourth wall thing of whole Bravo and what they do behind the scenes. So that was cool. And then Jen, they ask her, would she have why she didn't leave, and she said because I'm innocent and I wanted to tell my side of the story, but she didn't really tell too much of her story this year. Now she's trying to get the footage like banned from her court.
She had to stay around because she has this $2 million retainer. So she needed every single piece of coin from Bravo to go towards her glam and her hair. Because apparently for someone who's being accused of defrauding the old folks child, she's so steady showing up in the feathers and all types of glam and hair on the road and everything else in between. So she needed that Bravo check. She couldn't go nowhere. Now, I will say this. She may talk about like her innocence. I don't feel like she can say as much as she wants, which is, Andy teased it. It was like, how do your lawyers feel about you being here? But in this moment, she had to show up for the reunion. She could not show up.
No,
so she's pulling at Erica Jane, except she's not as, and we have not seen it yet, she's not as defensive and or as aggressive as Erica was during the reunion.
Well, I think also too this because of the case of two completely different personalities, right? Erica was a person that always from the beginning we never know what's really going on with her. She gave us looks and stuff like that, but she was always very cold and demeanor always, as opposed to Jen, who was always like up in your face and all that too. So I think, that has to play a huge role into that. But I mean, Jen has got to be very delusional if she thinks she's 100% innocent in this situation now.
Do you have information that we don't have here down at on the YouTube, Jeremy Machine?
It's not that I have information, but I'm just using, context clues, I guess, if that's the word to put it. But when everybody you're associated with that is working under you is guilty or well, they claim to be guilty because they signed a plea deal, right? So when you sign a plea deal, you have to admit to some level of guilt.
Yeah.
Right. And so if everybody working under you has done this, with the exception of you, even if you didn't do anything, the fact that these people are doing this under your watch and leadership puts you at somewhat of a risk because these are your people, the Shaw Squad.
So do you think she's not owning that's well, of course she can't, otherwise that is admitting guilt.
I wouldn't own it either. I'm innocent until you prove otherwise.
Guilty. Absolutely. But that's our justice system though. And that is what the American justice system is always supposed to be about, is you're innocent until proven guilty. It is her job, if she truly is innocent, to prove her innocence. Otherwise, boo sis is guilty. And she's gonna be buried underneath that jailhouse in her finest fashions. Her jailhouse fashions.
The difference also with Jen and Erica was that Jen is directly being accused of directly doing something, where Erica, it was her husband, and she got a lot of the flack because she received a lot of the rewards of other people's thing. And so I think what people wanted from Erica was to just show compassion for the victims throughout the entire season and not be the victim. And that's why people were giving her a hard time. She could have really escaped that if she would have did what she did at the reunion. It's like, listen, I feel horrible for these people. And if this is true, if it is true, I will continue to show up as I have been doing, and answer any question that they have of me. And then we would have let her go on throughout the rest of the season having a good old time, because she's like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to do what I can do. And hopefully everybody get the justice if there's something going on. And I feel bad for those people that this happened to those people, regardless of if Tom did this or not. What happened to them is horrible, and I'm sad. Then I would have did a drive on the show for burn victims or plane crash victims or anything. Listen,
burn victims, Jeremy, I can't with you. But I understand
one of the people, they end up getting burnt up by a fuel line that blew up. That Tom was accused of stealing the money. So listen, I would have did something like that.
She could have also started the Erica Jane Fund, and I'm sure that probably never seen the light of day for anybody. But
Erica Jane Foundation, get Anna Delvey to run it. Have you seen Inventing Anna? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't even seen the Tinder Swindler yet, or the Swindler. Anyways, Jeremy, are you ready for part 2?
I am ready for part 2. This just, they ain't gonna give you too much in Salt Lake City, so it's not something where you be like, ooh, it's not an Atlanta reunion. But
it looks like Lisa Barlow may be storming out on part 2, so we shall stay tuned for that and see how that unfolds.
Out of all the women, situation. Right. Out of all the women, Lisa is the most fame hungry of them all. So she ain't going anywhere. She may storm off, but she gonna storm her little behind right back in there. You saw her sucking up to Andy, being like, oh yeah, I got to the point where I almost was gonna walk, but I'm fine now, trying to smooth it over. Like, girl, you want this. You may not need it, but you want this so bad.
Well, the difference between like Lisa and Meredith is because I feel like they both get into their like white fragility, and they break down their tears, and they're trying to explain themselves out of situations. It's a constant like circle. Like Meredith has her own white fragility in a way, and Lisa does as well. But Lisa is a little bit more outwardly facing, and it's a lot more theatrics to me. But I am looking forward to part 2. I'm so glad that they heard, I really do believe that Andy may have heard me when I said that now that Mary's not there, we don't need a 4-part reunion like some of the other franchises. All we need is a good solid 2, but I guess they pushed it to 3, and I'm okay with that.
I guess they're trying to give them a solid 25 episodes. But
Hello. And on that note, guys, we got to go. Hey, before we leave, I would love to ask everybody, what was your favorite moment from Housewives Part 1 of the reunion? Drop it in the comment box. Let us know. And on next week, we will go through part 2 together. So, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, we got to go. You know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave us a comment. Most importantly, check the notifications and make sure they are turned on so you don't miss out on all this good old melanated magic. Who loves you? I do. Bye, guys.